What's up guys, welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris, thank you so much for joining me. In today's episode I want to talk about why I love eBay and to give you guys some secrets on sourcing. The number one secret when it comes to sourcing is to focus on a specific category, because then you'll start getting really good at it and you'll understand where the deals happen. Let me give you guys an example. I am mainly in the shoe category. So I like to sell running shoes because running shoes have really high sell-through rates and they're not as difficult to acquire like hype shoes. Jordans or limited edition shoes are much harder to find in my opinion than just basic running shoes. So this is a pair of Vaporflies. I purchased it on Poshmark for around $200. I'll put a link to that listing somewhere here. And I sold them on eBay for $360. Now, I have a list in the morning that I check every day that's called $500 profit. So my goal in the morning when I wake up is to look through that list and try to find $500 worth of profit. It doesn't always happen, but that's my goal for hopefully one day that list will be long enough that I can find $500 of profit first thing in the morning. Then the rest of the processes, guys, with eBay are actually very learnable. When it comes to photographing an item, listing an item, maximizing the listing, you can learn how to do that. That just takes a little bit of time. Over time and with practice, I think most people can get to the point where they can do 5 listings an hour, start to finish. That's photographing, listing, etc. That's about 12 minutes a listing. With practice, I think you can get there. Of course, when you're first starting, it may take 30 minutes to an hour to do that. But eBay is one of the only platforms where you can take a break in the middle of it. So I've been doing a lot of consulting lately, and a lot of them are parents. And specifically, I'm trying to learn what a stay-at-home parent has to go through. And this is sort of what I'm hearing. I'm working on dealing with a baby, and the baby is unpredictable, so I don't really know when I can work on the side hustle. And eBay is one of those businesses that you can do in between raising a kid. So let me break it down for you. It takes me roughly 7 to 10 minutes to list an item all the way through. That being said, if I were in the middle of juggling projects, I could do a set of photos, which for me takes about 3 to 4 minutes. So I know if I've got a half an hour break, I can knock out 8 to 10 sets of photos. This is one of the only businesses that you can do that. You can't be a consultant or work for someone and in the middle of a conference call say, you know what, I've got to take care of my child. That's not a thing. You've got to be focused the entire time. But you can actually fragment a reselling business, although I don't usually recommend doing that. Obviously, if you can work uninterrupted, you're going to get a lot more productivity. However, I understand people are working with different situations. Also, there are people with health problems that cannot work continuously for a long time. eBay allows you an outlet to sell something where you can take breaks and slowly put listings together. Now, this new system I've been promoting for people is the 50 for 50, and I think this is totally doable for people who learn online arbitrage. It's not easy. I didn't say it was easy. No one says it's easy, but they do say it's simple because it is. The idea is you have to get really good at a few categories so you can notice price variances. There's no way to do this in more than 1 to 3 categories because there's too many listings to look through. For me, it takes me a good hour to look through the specific SKUs and styles that I am looking through. Imagine if I was trying to look through 10 different categories, I would never understand the differences in pricing and I wouldn't be able to find deals. Also, if you start thinking about specifically what you want to sell, you can always ask yourself the question, where do these items come from? What are the retailers that sell these? And eventually get into the rhythm of contacting people that can actually get you the supply and developing the reputation that eventually the manufacturer will give you these specific shoes at wholesale pricing. How to get these running shoes? Essentially, you'd have to be a running store. Not all Nike stores get shoes like this, but you would know that if you were specifically selling in this category. So, now I want to talk about the number one problem that people are working with when it comes to eBay, and this is essentially what my entire channel will move towards. The 8 processes that you have to go through, I sell in my reseller field guide for 35 bucks. You can get the physical journal too for an extra $25. I'll give you a discount, $65 for both or $35 for each. But once you have the processes set up, there's only one thing left, and that's a predictable incoming supply setup. Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, where are these shoes coming from? Who wears them? Who retails them? Who distributes them? That's what happens when you focus on one specific category. So inbound sourcing is the key to longevity when it comes to reselling, and it's also the hardest thing to set up and takes the longest time. Most people do not try to create inbound supply. They go out and get the supply. And that's why reselling is so difficult for most people to scale, including myself. If you have to physically go get the inventory, that's your time. And I was thinking to myself, how many items am I really getting? So shout out to the posh hanger, Monica. She said that thrifting is the hardest resale hustle. Hashtag fight me, right? So I know Monica, I consider Monica a good friend. I couldn't agree with that more. Whenever I'm waiting in line at Goodwill or I go to a Salvation Army and I don't find anything after an hour of looking, I think, wow, what a waste of my life units, right? I've been doing this for 3 years now, looking for items, and what I found out is I would rather spend time creating a system where inventory comes to me. Of course, that can take a while. It's taken me multiple years to find different ways of getting items to come to me. That's either hiring people to physically go thrifting for me. I would hire Monica all day, every day to go thrifting for me. Of course, she would never agree to that because she knows how to run her own e-commerce business, but that's extremely uncommon. I think people overestimate how many people are going to rip off their idea and start their own resale company. Come on, it's actually quite difficult to master all 8 of these things and figure out inbound supply. There are plenty of people who will go out there and shop for you, but you need to be able to give them specific instructions on what to buy, and that comes from you being an expert in that category yourself. You can't just say, go find profitable things for me. That's not enough direction. They're not going to know what stores to go to. If you are in the pet category, that makes it much easier for a scout or professional buyer to go out and get items for you because you've narrowed down the 1 trillion items for sale to just that specific category. So again, eBay to me is amazing. I recommend this 50 for 50 model. What that means is you find 50 items for $20 profit a week or more, process it in 10 hours. So that leaves you the rest of the week to find these 50 items. What that looks like to me is most likely if you are in a warm area that has garage sales year-round, garage sales and estate sales, 2 days, the whole day, maybe 20 hours of hustling to try to get the best stuff that you can, then 10 hours throughout the week, you try to list and fulfill those items. That's what the 50 for 50 grand would look like. Now, if you want to scale, if you want to make more than that, it starts to get a little bit fuzzy. I haven't found too many ways of inbound $20 profit items. It's more like inbound $1 to $10 profit items, because when people are selling liquidation, a bunch of it is junk, a bunch of it's unrepairable, a bunch of it is home runs. It's a varying grade, right? It's very difficult to buy liquidation without having a lot of variance. So it ends up being, you have to sell like hundreds of items a week in order to make that work. So I actually have both models. I have the 50 for 50 that I'm doing with you guys, trying to find cool items. And I think it's interesting and a fun way to spend your time. So it's like a perfect job to do when you're retired, or a perfect job to do if you just want to add a side hustle. But I also have the bulk volume model where I'm trying to do 500 items a week with staff, right? So my expectation for that store is actually much lower. I would be perfectly fine with $5 profit as long as I'm not doing any of the work, right? So from my experience doing this for 3 years, take it for what it's worth. Either you should be a hunter looking for $20 profit items or more, or go the volume game with a little bit of help. I'd recommend 1 to 2 people helping you in person. You don't need that big of a team. I would say 3 people can comfortably do 100 listings a day. That's just from my experience. I heard a long time ago from Uncle Dave, I think he's Rockstar Flipper's friend, that a person can comfortably do 40 listings a day if that's all they do without burning out. So this isn't 40 items and listing and shipping. It's just sitting down and listing 40 items. That's what a normal human can do. I personally recommend getting a virtual assistant for that. But again, it depends on what you're comfortable with. Some people want to do everything in-house. Some people want to outsource the whole thing. So it's up to you guys. Another beautiful thing about eBay is you can run the business however you want to. It's up to you. It's your business. It's your side hustle. It's your name as the username. So whether it's Chris's garage sale store, Nothing wrong with that. As long as the items in your garage store, in my opinion, are the good stuff. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a garage sale store as long as it's the unique, cool, rad stuff. So that's how I treat my store. I have no issues with garage sale stores, no issues with hobby stores. I consider something a business when you can actually sell the concept. So for me, what I'm trying to do in this store, just for full transparency, I'm trying to create a consignment model. So right now I'm working on developing the marketing and developing the people that will work here. I'm probably going to wait until C19 is over, but until then, you know, I can work on my processes while I'm still small, to the point where I can have a consistent supply of customers bringing items in and a person here to check the items in and do a payout either on the spot or get a check in the mail later after it sells. So hopefully that's useful, guys. I love eBay, and not because I work for them. I just think it's an amazing way to do a side hustle, and I think anyone can start it, but you really need to sit down, think about where you want to go with this. And again, I think of this as a lifetime marathon of love. It's something that you can do forever. It's the golf of occupation. So peace out, guys. Until next time, support me by buying the reseller field guide for 35 bucks with code YouTube in the description below. For 65 bucks, you also get the guide. I recommend it. It took me 2 weeks to make this, so it should be very useful for you guys. I appreciate your time. Until next time, make progress daily.